Hello and welcome. This is the SCP video, or SCP Cosmology video, I should say. Took me quite a bit of reading. But yeah, let's do this. I've had this project or video saved for a while, and if it's been uploaded, that means I currently have nothing else to upload, or I have left the internet. So fun. Basically, the universe is, oh wait, before I begin, all the scanned information will be provided to you upon your request. If you want all of it though, that will take quite a bit of time on my end, and I can't necessarily guarantee I get all of it to you within a reasonable time frame. But suffice to say, let's begin. Just the universes are said to contain an infinite fractal hierarchy of space-time. The space-times, each of them are described as being infinite in conceptual, spiritual, mental, and physical planes in every cosmological theory. One of the quotes is, "He had it all planned out too. This universe would be a work of both science and art, producing unending complexity from pure simplicity. There would be an infinite fractal hierarchy of space-time and mass energy, of worlds within worlds without end. The worlds themselves generated by an almost unimaginable variety of physical forces, from cosmic inflation to a universal wave function. For each level of space-time, there would be a number of planes, physical, mental, spiritual, and conceptual. These planes would intersect, interpenetrate, and interact with each other, allowing profundity and meaning to take root in the network of worlds that make up the cosmos." For those who don't know, a fractal is a never-ending pattern. No matter how close you zoom in or out, it's the exact same pattern. The universe uses the theory of everything, which here the quote for that would be, "There would be also an endless strata of cosmic laws, natural, spiritual, and otherwise, from the relatively local and environmental to the fundamental and all-encompassing, and are all unified under a single superforce, a single source, a single law, a single mathematical equation, the theory of everything, if you will. These would bring order and form to the macrocosm." End quote. The theory of everything is basically supposed to unify all, how the universe works on every level. And there's another quote which I'll put in the description probably, that sort of implies the SCP has Type 4 multiverses. That's a kind of new term I've heard, or at least a new term for me to learn. But there is a video that I'll link below, and some other videos I'll link below about that sort of stuff. But Tegmark writes, "Abstract mathematics is so general that any theory of everything which is definable in purely formal terms, independent of vague human terminology, is also a mathematical structure. For instance, a theory of everything involving a set of different types of entities, denoted by words, say, and the relations between them, denoted by additional words, is nothing but what mathematicians call a self-theoretical model, and one can generally find a formal system that is a model of. It is a model of." He argues that this implies that any conceivable parallel universe theory can be described at level 4 and subsumes all other ensembles, and therefore bringing closure to the hierarchy of multiverses, and there cannot be, say, a level 5. Type 4 Tegmark multiverse, in fact, should contain all possible mathematical permutations, views all possible mathematical objects as real, including abstract Platonic ones that are devoid of concepts like space and time. The universe has 196,840 dimensional beings, implying it's hyperversal, but this other stuff already shows otherwise. The moonshine theory, the number which is, quote, the number 196,884 is the dimension of the space in which Robert Grice constructed the monster. This representation in 196,884 dimensions is split into two, a trivial representation in one dimension and an irreducible representation in 196,883 dimensions. The reason Grice chose 196,884 dimensions is that the monster preserves a pleasing algebra structure in a space of this dimension, and the main work in his construction was to give the multiplication for this algebra, and so that it was preserved by the monster. This algebra is now called the Grice algebra. The number 196,884 is also the first non-trivial coefficient in the J function in number theory, and this strange coincidence led to a connection between the monster and the J function known as moonshine. The story of these connections and the history leading up to them is described in my book, Symmetry and the Monster. End quote. The universe has infinite dimensions. I will attempt to create a link to all of these quotes and scans. The universe contains more than infinite dimensions, actually, and that reach Aleph Null and onward. A good quote that you might have heard is, "And he keeps soaring." I'm pretty sure this is in reference to SCP-3812. And he keeps soaring through constellations whose stars link by chains of higher dimensional light, soaring through planets that stretch out of space's blackness into white space and green space, and an endless rainbow of spaces, soaring through megastructures of pure crystalline information, ringing lightning bolts of consciousness that dance through a matrix of shimmering hive minds, existential planes 1 to 2 through Aleph 0, through Aleph and onward. I'm sorry, I haven't done Aleph stuff in a while. Through Aleph and onward, and that it's ignoring how many other axes worlds are stretched along like daggers of light, everything orbiting the spindle in a tsunami of colors and concepts he never could have imagined. Aleph Null is the smallest infinite number. It is the cardinality of the set of natural numbers. Of course, Cantor invented and named the concept. The universe is described as a macrocosm. Another quote. Allow me to quote your own words to you. SCP-3125 represents an omniversal scale threat. It threatens neighboring realities to ours. It threatens microverses within our macroverse. It threatens universes which embed ours as fiction, implying there are fictional transcendences. But we'll get into that later. The universe has metaphysical backbones. Quote, reality has a fabric, and reality has bones. Bending reality means manipulating the fabric. When you bend reality, reality will continuously push back. Imagine it as a piece of cloth strapped over a wooden skeleton. When you push or pull on the cloth, then it will stretch, but it will always, at least somewhat, regain its previous shape. If you break the wooden support, then it will not be able to do that anymore. Your ability to shape the cloth will only be limited by how many arms you have. In regard to creating the metaphysical architecture, this means that one has to break the bones of local reality in order to allow the genius loci, loci to take control. This can be achieved in a variety of ways. Skilled reality benders can usually help with such matters. So the usual solution to this problem is simply hiring some reality benders. Another solution is simply using a lot of people. This only rarely works because it is way more difficult than those that attempt it usually think. End quote. I'd like to add that all reality or a great deal of reality benders get their power from the Scarlet King. That's a different thing. Metaphysics is described as the branch of this is the dictionary definition. If you don't believe me, just go ahead and Google it, or search it on Bing or Brave or whatever you have. Metaphysics is the branch of philosophy that studies the fundamental nature of reality, the first principles of being, identity, and change, space and time, causality, necessity, and probability. And possibility, my bad. It includes questions about the nature of consciousness and the relationship between mind and matter, between substance and attribute, and between potentiality and actuality. End quote of the definition. The universe houses Platonic concepts. Anything within the universe is conceptual. That's gonna sum up what I'm gonna talk about for just the universes, because believe it or not, I know that you're not gonna listen to an hour of SCP talk. But I guess I'll continue with some of it, such as the fact that there's a higher plane of reality in the universe that houses every concept. The universe has narrative space-time. The universe has narrative dimensions and spatial space-time dimensions. Sorry, I'm a little. There's also narrative energy and something called Humes. I'm not sure when we'll get into that, just that we will eventually. Of course, there are infinite universes within the SCP multiverse. Not even really into the multiverse as yet, funnily enough. Each of the universes are layered on top of each other. Every single one seeing the universe below as fiction, called Hume levels. I'll read you some quotes. I'm curious how these two concepts would interact, and indeed whether they are even reconcilable, or whether, like some other pairs of theories, I forget which, relativity and quantum mechanics maybe, they could both be accurate representations of the universe, yet contradict each other. The concept of Hume levels that can be measured on a linear scale, and the concept that the universes within the multiverse are layered on top of one another. Within any universes below another one constituting what the universe considers fiction. Though, if you look into the premises behind Operation Overmeta, they clearly aren't arranged in a neat stack, but more like a fractalizing spiral web. Humans have as much a relation to metafiction as fish do to not fish? This is another quote. Humans only serve to describe individual realities and cannot be used to compare separate realities due to their inherently subjective nature. Thus, there is no contradiction between metafiction and Humes. However, Humes also cannot be used to make any observations or assumptions about metafictional constructs. End quote. A Hume is basically used to determine the amount of reality in a given area. I believe the metaphor is when some of the sand, or it's something like, picture the universe is covered with a thin layer of sand. When some of the sand is removed, by any way it is moved, there is less sand now, and the level of reality has dropped, and when sand is added, additional reality is around. That's kind of a simple explanation, but it is SCP. And even by their own description, it is a simple explanation. Each of the universes has different mathematical structures, concepts, etc., incomprehensible to other universes. The universes are said to be the universes are beyond space. The concepts of time and space. But the connections. This is a quote. But the connections go deeper than that. Global, galactic, even universal events only begin to sketch the surface of what I could see. If I just look a bit further, I can see that the thread you perceive yourself to live on is only one of a countless to you, number of realities. They bear no resemblance to this one. There is no concept of geometry, time, space, life, death, all these things you take for granted. They have no bearing on these realities. There are even completely empty ones, realities filled with nothingness, and yet filled to the brim with concepts you can't begin to understand. End quote. So yeah, these universes apparently, this is solid. This is solid outer versal scaling. Like, something like the bleed would hypothetically be contained within an SCP universe, just one. But of course, DC. Let me put it this way: DC gets wild. So the SCP versus DC video will come one day. And when I say it will come one day, I mean that in context to once I get the Umaneko video out, and then we just do the strongest versus ever video. There's pataphysics in these universes work on some of these laws, and pataphysics is what deals with narrative physics, which is what the pataphysics department in SCP is for. I am more than aware that pataphysics is basically supposed to be the metaphysics to metaphysics, but SCP has created a new definition for it, as all stories do. All of these infinite universes make up a meta-universe, and the quote for that would be, "The observable universe is one among a finite or infinite number of possible universes contained within the meta-universe. Each universe can in turn be divided into a finite or infinite number of iterations. The structure of the meta-universe, the natural laws which allow for the manifestation of universes, is eternal, without beginning or end. Universes, on the other hand, are created and eventually destroyed." Finally, after 18 minutes of this, we get into the multiverse. The multiverse runs on the laws of pataphysics and philosophy, which sort of just implies to me that metaphysics is strictly a concept within these universes and might not be so, encompassing in the multiverse. The quote to show that the multiverse runs on pataphysics and philosophy is, "The division of metaphysics includes departments which study the greater workings of the multiverse rather than focusing on a specific facet. It is unique in including both occult and mundane departments." End quote. The division head, Professor Dominic Hall, philosophy, 1999, since present day. Department M majors, divination, ontokinetics, philosophy, pataphysics, theology applied, and theology theoretical. For those of you wondering what ontokinetics is, end quote. Ontokinetics is basically, sounds to me like ontology, which is the study of sort of like, how do I word it? Ontology is like the branch of metaphysics dealing with the nature of being. The second definition, dictionary-wise, if I memorized it correctly, is a set of concepts and categories in a subject area or a field that shows their properties and the relationships between them. That might not be the exact definition, but that's the closest I think it is to the second definition. The multiverse is an infinitely layered one. The multiverse contains Aleph infinity, replaceable uncountable infinity. Respectfully, I'm not going to read the quote. I'm pretty sure it's actually famous enough, but if not, just ask for it in the comment section. I will send it. There are an infinite amount of multiverses, and yet another famous quote. For all of their beautiful equipment, for all of their ability to condense infinite multiverses into simulated elegant strands, for their careful algorithms that rob tiny amounts of energy from the beginning of time, taking it to leave messages in its absence, and then recycling it into light, food, oxygen, and entropy reversal, for one small extratemporal homestead of wayward earthlings. For all of that, he still can't explain that goddamn dinosaur. End quote. There's a void that is connected, or that is located at the center of the infinite multiverses, and is not bound by concept, and is consuming what is real and what is not real. The quotes are, there is a burning cold that lurks beyond reality, an encompassing void that devours the real and unreal alike, giving birth to the surreal. It is a realm of unbound concepts, devoid of mind to conceive them, or matter to contain them. It is the most absolute sense, eternity. End quote. It is through this vast fullness that the ways travel, flickering threads of reality crisscrossing the void to connect the disparate pocket universes that compose the multiverse. In a sea of abstractness, they form concrete ties that bind the worlds together. Similar to the universes, the multiverses have a hierarchy where they view the lower one as infinitesimal, containing fractals within fractals. The quote being, and these continents come together to form worlds. These worlds, star systems, and galaxies, superclusters, eventually a universe. Similarly, the true universe is only one infinitesimally small piece of the larger multiverse, a fractal within a fractal, a pattern imitating a whole so massive that even imagining it in its entirety is almost impossible. There's also confirmation or proof that there's a greater extra greater multiverses and the metaverse. Quote 2. Extra multiversal. For something to be outside the Earth Prime multiverse, extra multiversal spaces, structures, objects, etc., are a part of the greater metaverse and are extra multiversal, much in the same way that other solar systems are a part of the galaxy and extrasolar. End quote. Wait, no. My bad, not the end of the quote. For an object to be considered extra multiversal, the space containing it must be sufficiently different in structure from the Earth Prime multiverse, such that no event can be shared in common between the two. Common conditions for this to be true include inherent differences in the laws of physics between the objects in question, space of origin and ours, or more drastically, a difference in the space of the universe, as is the case with SCP 4555-A. Attempts to classify this space initially led to coining of the terms extra multiversal and metaverse. End quote. Jeez Louise. This is gonna be one of the... Why are these cosmologies so big? Well, in all fairness, I do have a few pages for mine, but jeez Louise, these SCP people. I could go over the metaverse, but this is already long enough as it is. If you liked, please subscribe. We're only we're actually not that far into this SCP multiverse. But yeah, part 2 coming soon, probably, hopefully. But for now, I'd say that the multiverse of SCP is at bare minimum, I'd say bare minimum, high outer versal, but better arguments would be infinite layers into high outer versal. Possibly more than infinite, but like uncountably infinite into high outer versal, because there are countless universes and layers, etc. But with that, this video and this part of the SCP Cosmology comes to a brief end.